Welcome to the Mentors Office podcast. In today's episode, we welcome Daniel Castañeda, currently serving as Delivery Director of Media, Streaming, and Entertainment for Colombia at WiseLine. Daniel has a rich professional background. He previously held roles such as Product Manager at Discovery Inc., Product Owner at Univision, and Digital Producer at Caracol Televisión. Additionally, he earned a bachelor's degree in social communication and journalism from Universidad Central de Colombia. Daniel, welcome to the Mentors Office podcast.
Thank you, Alvaro. Welcome. Thank you for having me here.
It is a pleasure to have you here. And one of the topics that we like the most in this podcast is the topics related to career. And I want to begin with a question related to that topic.
Okay.
How challenging was the transition from being a journalist to a product owner, and what advice do you have to those undergoing a career change?
Right. Well, first off, to be fair, I would have to say that despite the fact that I would love to say I was smart enough to make the transition, it was miraculously provoked. I was actually fired from El Tiempo because of a system error. A news that has not been confirmed got published, and that was my last day at the newspaper, where I was having a lot of fun. But thankfully, that allowed me to switch to a whole new industry, still within media and entertainment, but switching to a full different role. I would say it was surely challenging, but more than challenging, it was fun. Fun because I was somehow forced to move out of the comfort zone. Um, it was also fun because I get to new or to understand the media business from a whole new perspective. Like when you're a journalist, you're very passionate about communicating the truth, about finding out details, and at the end, communication is about putting many people in a common ground. It's building bridges on based on information. So it was surely fun to see how knowledge that I have gained and passion that I share about communicating and yeah, bringing information to different audiences and people was also useful in a whole different set.
And
In terms of
was it easy to get that first job out of journalism?
yeah, it was. I mean, every particular story is very different. Mine, I would say, I was again miraculously lucky, thanks to the fact that I had to be laid off from El Tiempo. A few friends from there, actually, the one who fired me, who was my boss, was the one recommending me for my first job into product.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I would say it was fairly easy in terms of getting into the job. It was not as easy to learn from that new role because everything was new. Like even vocabulary, I felt like I was listening to Chinese. But it was a matter of and that was actually my that would actually be my advice. Like whenever someone is aiming to make a career transition, you surely need to make sure you are prepared to get dirty, to do a lot of hands-on job, to stay focused, and I would say probably most important, make sure you're well surrounded with a strong team, with good reference and good mentors.
Okay, so you would say that the key was having maybe good networking, good connections to that career transition, or what was the key? What do
I
you
would,
think? What made it easy?
I think so. But if I could go in further detail, usually when people talk about having a good network, uh, people often think that network is somehow given because you invite someone over a coffee or because your family knows a lot of people or because you're in yeah, you're surrounded by people with decision making capabilities, and that's for sure, those are factors. But I also think Like, at least in my particular case, it was thanks to the fact that I was also putting a lot of effort and doing a great job at El Tiempo. Like, despite the fact that I was laid off, I was very diligent, very disciplined, very focused, and I come from a place where I knew nobody in the industry, but thanks to that very first job, I knew many people that along the way they've grown to different roles, um, and that's the network that I built from the scratch. Not people that I knew or I invited over a coffee, but people I work with, people I struggle with, people that were first mentors and then peers, and vice versa. So I also believe there are a lot of very meaningful relationships that you can build out of doing a great job, being passionate about what you do, and building success together.
Interesting. And did you ask for a recommendation or for that job, or was your or did your boss offer that opportunity, or how was it?
No, I honestly wasn't looking for the job. Like, this person knew that I was in need for a job. I hadn't even finished my university, so it was a good chance when I finished my path at El Tiempo to finish that up. I was gonna look for a job. They knew, and they proactively recommended me for those opportunities. And it's interesting because that's been the same situation in many different occasions along the way.
Very interesting. I want to fast forward in your career. Now you had experience as product owner, and then you start working at Wiseline, and you're the director of operations at Wiseline, and you're in charge of starting Wiseline in Colombia, basically.
Mhm.
What were the most challenging things that you had to deal with at the beginning of Wiseline in Colombia?
Well, I would start by saying that was another shift in my career that was very, very interesting because I was moving from doing product to building an office. And mainly the reason for that, and probably I'll be calling this out a lot, had to do with the possibility of building a team, of creating a team, not necessarily out of scratch, but bringing talented, passionate, excellent people together to do great things. So that's sort of what motivated that transition. And at the same time, I believe that was part of the challenge. First, while Wizeline was a very well-known brand in Mexico in terms of attracting talent, it was not the case here in Colombia. Um, so there was somehow part of that in terms of um, what was challenging at the very beginning. Also, uh, how to make sure as you're building a new team, part of what you want to be super careful about is having a great culture, having a great environment to build for success. And there's no other way of doing that but except by bringing good people. And that that in itself has its definition, right? Like, for some companies, having great talent refers a lot about uh, bringing people who had great experience, great technical capabilities, and that's it. For other places, it might have to do with different factors. Part of what we were looking in Colombia was, of course, securing what was minimal, which had to do with um, the minimum necessary technical knowledge for every specific role that was being opened. Uh, but most important than that, two key things that usually people put into a box of soft skills, and that's okay. I just prefer to call them out specifically because I believe those are key successful or key elements for building success in the long run. The first one is finding people with great potential, and potential has to do with what I would call hunger for growth, hunger for learning, hunger for developing a career, skills, assets, and like anything you can think of in terms of growth and expansion and making it stretch. That's something you want to look for, or we were looking
I
for.
want to ask you a question related to that.
Right.
How do you identify those kind of people? Like,
Well,
what do you do?
that's a tricky question, because I don't believe there's still, and I might lack information, but I don't believe there's still a written formula for you to know that. If there were, then it would be very easy to build a team. So you're kind of taking risk and playing your odds every time you're bringing someone into a team. But some factors that I personally was looking for first. Listening to every single individual and try to understand what the career has been, what's the natural inclination to step out of the comfort zone, in terms of effort, in terms of learning, in terms of time, in terms of investing yourself in things that might not be what you're used to. Another important aspect in that potential is, how willing is a person to be resourceful at times of, or whenever facing inconvenience or roadblocks, like how resourceful people are, because I believe that's a key element for developing yourself along, like in your professional and personal careers. So those would be two elements, and probably the third in terms of potential is how capable someone is to articulate, either put it in words or in writing, or yeah, to articulate learnings and fail, like layer learnings from success and learnings from failures. Part of the ability we all have to grow has to do with the fact to reflect, articulate, and learn and adapt. Let's say, so that in terms of potential. And the other factor I was usually looking for was, bringing people that were good people, like nice people, approachable, able to uh, be empathetic with others, be respectful with others, being able to collaborate not only in terms of the pure deliverables, but yeah, connecting with other people, because you might have someone with great technical assets, a lot of potential, a lot of eagerness and hunger for growth, but then, on a solo ranger path where they don't want to engage with anyone, build bonds with anyone. And I mean, that's fair, but it's not what we were looking for. We were looking for people who would enable us to build a community, to build stronger, to bring even more people in. Sort of the pitch was, who are people that are out on the market, you've worked with, you had a great relationship with, and you would love to have on your team. That's the type of people that we're looking for.
That is very interesting. And I want to ask you one thing. I'm very interested in companies in entrepreneurship. How was your experience growing Wizeline Colombia from 0 to 200 people?
Wow. Um, it was kind of crazy. I would say there was an initial milestone when we ramp up from 0 to 100, and a very different story from the first 100 to the second 100.
Really?
Um, a lot of elements. So the first one, I think there was a lot of excitement for me personally, but also for a lot of other members, observing the process of creating something out of not nowhere, but like a very empty space here in Colombia, and see how the more you bring great people, great talent, the faster you grow, not only in terms of volume, but in terms of capabilities, in terms of what we're able to do now to source for the company now. Um, so there was a lot of excitement. I believe part of the biggest, or possibly one of the biggest challenges, had to do with all the process, or yeah, all the architecture to define processes, and being sensitive enough to know what makes sense to have localized and what makes sense to replicate from elsewhere, whether Mexico, Vietnam, the US. And I think it's a very similar story to any other entrepreneur kicking off a company. Like, no one wants to reinvent the wheel, but at the
Right.
same time, not because you're doing the exact same thing that someone else is doing, it means you will have success. You need to be very observant on what makes sense for the place where you are, the people you're working with, your particular goals, and also the time you're at. And that's exactly what happened after the first 100 employees. We had a quick ramp up, 8 months, bringing people, hiring a lot of great individuals, building processes out of scratch, replicating some others, and we were in a very good ground. And then there was somehow a shift in the industry, and we'll learn that volume was no longer the equation, but more a specialty, more the depth. And we had to start developing the new ability to determine to what extent we're going out and finding unicorns, and in which cases we need to develop people, we need to develop talent, we need to deepen our relationships and probably build different strategies. And at the same time, it was also interesting to understand that while the pace of bringing new people slowed down, the pace of doubling down on the quality of the processes, doubling down on the precision, the auditing, the experience that you're offering both for your employees, the local ecosystem, the local communities, and the clients was in good shape. At the end of the day, at least coming from product prioritization, it's like a burden. Every time you prioritize something, you're deprioritizing something else. So it's about like making sure where you are, what's the stage you're in, what's happening around you, and then prioritize according to that moment.
Yes, and I imagine that it it that it was a real challenge to hire so many people in such a short amount of time.
Oh
And
yeah,
what
for
why
sure.
did why, which was more challenging, from 0 to 100 or from 100 to 200?
For our particular case, I mean, it's hard to tell which one was worst. Each phase came with the highs and lows. I think good thing on the first 100, it was kind of easier to bring people because probably half of the initial team were people we knew, were friends from the past, were colleagues, and that make it easier to onboard people, to build trust, to build community, and ramp them up. And there was also a lot of autonomy. Uh, so that was great, but at the same time we ran a lot of risk. Processes were not in a good shape. There were people who came and then left very quickly, and that hurt us. uh, they left in good terms, but still hurtful, in terms of effort, processes, financially. Second phase, good thing is we've learned already, we became more detailed, we became more precise, our processes were in a better shape. But then it took us a little longer to bring more people. There were like almost everyone we were bringing in was fairly new. Like no one knew this person, and we had to build trust, we had to build confidence, we had to find new alternatives or ways to build community. So yeah, I would say each one was very different with its own challenges and its own entertaining stuff happening.
Yeah, that sounds like a real challenge of growing a company so fast.
Yeah.
And I want to transition to a new point in the timeline, and is now.
Okay.
You still are one of the leaders in Wizeline in Colombia, and a lot of things have changed. What are the current challenges that you're facing as a leader, as a delivery director here in Colombia?
Um, I would say we're certainly in a period of transition, and I'm not speaking specifically about Wiseline. We're surely in transition as well, but I think the ecosystem in itself, the technology industry is going through another shift where we're trying to find a good balance between big scalable teams and on the other end very expert people on various specific fields. We're still trying to find ourselves in the middle. Colombia, as a market and as a country, it's in a process of um, educating and preparing thousands of professionals in IT, and that also affects the market. We are coming from probably a couple years, 3 years ago, with a lot of scarcity. Whenever you were trying to find an engineer in almost every field, you were in a battle with a thousand other more. That's not precisely the case right now, and I think as the time comes along, we might feel a little bit more of that happening. Nonetheless, uh, I think we're in a moment where we need to understand where to concentrate our efforts first, in terms of making sure we keep the right people engaged, and we are enabling our leaders, enabling our talent to learn, to develop, and to scale. Another area where I do believe we need to make sure we keep focus is on what's happening in every aspect of the industry, with all the fuzz about artificial intelligence, generative AI. What's truly value generating for every vertical, even for us as individuals? What's truly enabling? What's truly multiplying our capabilities? And then start building knowledge, start building experience on that. And I think that applies for Colombia as well as for any other location. And probably the last thing I would mention is, for those who are in Colombia, I believe we're in a great this is a great moment to be here. Um, Companies continue expanding their interest in building teams in Latin America. Within that realm, I think Colombia is in a great location. Cost wise, we're sitting in the middle. We're not as expensive as other countries, neither as cheap. That means a lot of willingness from the companies to hire talent here, while finding amazing individuals, but also means good possibility to get a good payment, a good salary, and also working with international companies that had very exciting projects going on. Um, so I think that's sort of part of the transition we're undergoing and what's coming ahead for us as a company, for us as an industry, and for us as Colombians.
You mentioned that there are a lot of opportunities in Colombia, and there are many people that work in Wizeline and that also are interested in working in Wizeline. What does the future hold for Wizeline in Colombia? What would you say to
Growth,
them?
growth for sure. I wouldn't be able to give a number. I wouldn't be able to provide further statistics, but in 3 years we've grown exponentially. Again, first 8 months, 100 people, and since we've grown incredibly. targets now for the company is that in terms of talent, all the growth is coming to Colombia, and there are other locations where we're looking to grow. So that truly represents a massive opportunity for talent in Colombia to engage with us. Not only that, but I also believe there's a lot of potential in growth with local clients. We've been able to deliver um, some projects. I'm not sure if I can disclose, so I won't. But we've worked with one of the largest insurance company here in Colombia. We built core functionalities for their not only their insurance but their overall health plans for their clients. We're also working with a couple big banks in the country, and we're expecting also a lot of movement and growth as we're expanding our relationships with local companies. And I believe that's also a great terrain, again, for individuals to come and join us, but also for individuals come and join these companies and develop technology and develop value and capabilities for the local market and for users here in the country.
And would you say that there are a lot of opportunities for innovation in Wiseline?
Yes, certainly. I mean, as we're putting Gen AI at the core of everything we do, I think that speaks of our interest into being ambassadors of aiming to incorporate new technologies in everything we do, and not only technologies, but that comes with a mindset of embracing what's new, embracing transition, embracing change, and trying yourself out in those terrains. That said, I would also be cautious into what innovation means, right? I do believe innovation finds its value whenever you leverage from expert and experience knowledge and practice. It's easier to be misguided into considering innovation just a permanently disruptive route where you deprecate what's happening and you aim for what's new. On the contrary, I personally believe innovation comes out of learning from the past, learning from what you've done, learning from what's there, from what works, and then matching that with the specific needs from the market, from a client, from the end user. What are still those pain points out there? What is a problem that hasn't been solved that we could solve? So I think innovation lays there in unsolved problems that no one has tackled on yet. There's a lot of openness here at Wiseline to do that for our end users as well as for us internally. So yeah.
Amazing. I want to focus again on careers. This is a question that we ask every person that we invite, every guest that we have, and
Mhm.
is, can you share your top three rules for success?
Um, that's a big question. That's a big question. Hard to put into three rules.
Or two
First
rules.
I
It
would
doesn't have to be three.
yeah. Look, first I think it would be it would be relevant to revisit for the matter of the conversation what success is. Um, I don't think I have myself the experience to talk about like personal success in itself. That for me, that has to do with uh, how you prioritize and balance overall your relationships with family, friends, work, your spiritual being, and everything that has to do with you as an individual. So I would defer from that. Probably I would speak more um, on the professional realm, if you would say. And in that sense, I still believe you can extrapolate some of the. I would extrapolate some of the principles I use for my personal life. The first one the first one would probably be staying humble and connecting with people, which come along. I'm 100% certain that regardless how expert you are in a given field, you would never overcome a group of experts. And that speaks of everyone's need to engage with the team, in deep, like truly engage with people, trying to learn from them, even on your disagreements, and finding mentors and finding mentees, finding people you can learn from, you can talk to, ask for advice, and also in parallel finding moments where you can use your knowledge and pour that into someone else, like pass it on to someone else. um, Having peers, with all what that means, in terms of having great times together, having companions on the hardship, uh, have someone you want and wish you can blame on, having feedback. So I would say that's the first. Do not be a a solo ranger. Engage with people, work with teams, find mentors, and have mentees. Second would probably be, dare dare to do dare to do what no one else is daring to. Um, yeah, step out of your comfort zone. That means, no, you know what? I would even rephrase it in terms of push yourself to do the right thing even when you don't want to do the right thing. uh, and that means surely stepping out of the comfort zone. That means, uh, giving a little bit more of time, putting a little bit more of effort. If someone is required to do something no one else is doing, no one else wants to do because it's either boring or compromising or seems like way too challenging, step in, chime in, come up front, find colleagues who would support you, but dare. If someone is
And
asking
do
you
you
to do
have an
something,
example in your life for that one?
yeah, I think, like, for instance, one is when I was invited to come to the technology, industry. Was in my field, I didn't know anything. uh, I stepped in and I've had one of the greatest rides of my life. Another example would be, I remember I was part of a project, one of the largest media companies in the United States, and they were aiming to do a replatforming, like full transition in systems, a redesign, um, everything with a new team. Like everyone was new in the team. The team that was before us estimated that was a project that would take a year and a half. Our aim or the request was having that ready in 10 months, and we ended up delivering in 9 months. It was surely a nightmare. I wouldn't repeat that, let's
Okay.
say. But at the same time, I would say 100% for sure that was the time when I learned the most, I grew the most, and I made probably the deepest connection I have professionally and personally in my life. Same thing with, like, right now I'm a dad. You're probably listening to my kid, on the background. Um, like, it's, man, it's, if you're aiming to be comfortable, to have time for yourself, to enjoy yourself over a weekend, then everyone will tell you not to do that. Yet being a dad has been top one experience in terms of growth, in terms of learnings, in terms of character development, and in terms of fun. So, whenever you're not willing to step out of the comfort zone, there's a lot you're missing, and you would hardly expect growth and transition and transformation if you're staying there. So, that would be my second rule: step out of the comfort zone, do the right thing, aim for a purpose. And you were saying three. So the
Okay.
third, I would say, communicate. You can be excellent at what you are. You can document every single line of code or every project that you do. Um, Communicate, let other people know. But again, first, make sure you're doing a great job. Second, make sure you're engaging with good people and help them also become visible. And then communicate. Whatever you did great, communicate. Whenever you failed, learn and communicate. And embrace the fact that others, that you would become to some extent vulnerable, but to other extent, be seen as a person who learns and grows and gets things done and delivers value. So those would be
And
my
how to communicate. Let's say in
uh,
the case of Wizeline, there is an engineer. You're saying communicate, be visible. How does that look like in Wizeline or in the life of, for example, an engineer?
we could probably talk an hour about that, but I'll summarize it in: know your audience and talk about value. Those would be my probably my two tips on that. The first one, know your audience, means understand who you're talking to. Is this a business person? Is this a technical person? Is this a data person? Is this person fond of statistics, or is this person fond of stories? Is this person fond of I don't know. That's for everyone's to know. And then once you know that, once you know if the common ground are numbers, or the common ground are technicalities, or the common ground is business, then speak about value. Why those things that you're doing are valuable for that audience. I don't know, we re-architecture systems. So if and then let's say we're talking to a technical person. Oh, this was our approach. We're integrating these new technologies or these new services. We're switching from an on-premise with all the risk that it has to a cloud-based system, and this is how we architecture the solution. If you're talking to a business person, oh, we're optimizing cost in such and such way, or in the long run, you're going to be reducing your liabilities and risk in these or other sense. If you're talking to an statistic person, then we optimize performance by a 50%, by a whatever percent, like it's not great when people come with statements such as, "Oh, I'm a great engineer because I know a lot about this framework and I've been studying this a lot, and I put this number of lines of code in this project, and that's it." It's not engaging. I feel like you're complimenting yourself, and it's not engaged to listen to. But when you're putting up front something that it's meaningful for me or that I can connect with, then you amplify your probabilities to be heard and to be promoted.
I agree. Communication and visibility are very important, and that's why I think that in Wizeline is very useful. Those Slack groups and
Yeah.
seeing people, for example, I do it, and many other people do it. They share their stuff there in Slack and get visibility, or many people create events. I think there are a lot of ways to create
Yeah.
visibility and also to communicate and learn to
Yeah.
communicate. And
And let me interrupt you there, because what you're saying is 100% true, but there's a very dangerous temptation on that, which is communicate so much and about so many things that you lose relevance, or that people start questioning whether you were actually getting something done. So that's why I'm saying you need to find a really good match between building and getting dirty and being heads down into doing something awesome first. Make sure you do great things first. Then go out and communicate. Because if you only care about what you communicate, again, you're losing relevance. People will start feeling suspicious, even if you're awesome. So make sure what you got in your hands is gold, that you're building, that you're working for it. Then go out, and usually you find people stepping on the two edges.
I agree. I
It
agree.
happens a lot
It's
that
like
people
the
that are
problem
doing
of the what's first, the egg of the or the chicken. I think
right.
that's is both. You have to. I completely agree. You have to do both. Like you have to do great things, but at the same time communicate, and then remember to keep doing improving. Like it's like a cycle,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly, exactly.
And what is the most valuable career advice that you have ever received, Daniel? Something that you change, that you say, this changed my career or really helped me.
Yeah. To be fair, more than a specific advice, um, I found an amazing mentor. Uh, I was very blessed and very lucky to engage with someone who gave me tons of advice throughout my career, like for over 10 years. Um, so if I were to summarize that into an advice, would be find a good mentor. Find
Amazing.
someone who's terrific at what they do, who's a good person, and who's willing to invest a whole lot of time in developing you. Uh, that would be my advice, and that was surely transformational in my case. Having a good mentor.
It is great to hear that. And I think it's very powerful to have a mentor. In my case, to be honest, I have not been lucky enough to have a mentor. I found
Okay.
it very challenging, at
Yeah.
least in my case. But I will try and follow your advice. But yeah, in my case, yeah, it has been very challenging to do so.
Yeah. And look, it happens. I think I was blessed and lucky because I believe it's an exception. It's probably easier when you're working in smaller teams. It's easier to connect when you come into companies that are bigger in size. Teams are bigger. It's harder to find someone with whom you can have a long lasting relationship. For those cases, what I would say is, if you don't have a mentor yet, you're still looking for it, work with good reference in the meantime. Like, try to lift up your head, observe people around you, and see who's someone you admire on any specific field, and trying to find the space with them. But first, observe, see where people you admire. um, if you don't have anyone around you, look farther, other places, other teams. If there's no one there, look farther. And if you're already looking at the worldwide and you're still not finding someone, then look back into yourself, because you're probably being too proud and too cocky, that you're not finding anyone.
Yeah, I have
And the
to
second
start
thing,
looking.
and the second thing, be intentional. That's something, I mean, I would personally call that out on you. You're very intentional on talking to people that you find interesting to talk to. That's key. Like, keep on asking questions, keep on trying to get time with people, talk to them, try to learn, and truly try to learn. Something that I observe on a friend of mine is, she was able to find different mentors along the way. And the reason why she was able to have multiple mentors at a time is because she was a person that you would notice that she could take an advice and put it in practice. Something that happens a lot is that people would give their advice, putting a treasure in someone else's hands, and whenever they do not see a return because the person either disregards or just doesn't care, then you're breaking that possibility. So be wise to play your cards and your game and your investments.
Thank you for the advice, and I will continue to look for that mentor. I
Yeah,
consider my mother and my father my mentors, actually, but apart from them, career wise, that well, I have not been lucky enough to have found one.
I
But
see.
now, I to continue to the next part of this podcast, that is a section that I really like, and is the audience questions.
Okay.
The first question, Daniel, from the audience is how to easily complement life of a father with being a director and leading a big organization like Wizeline in Colombia.
Well, I would start by saying that it's not easy. If you're if you're hoping it's gonna be easy, then you need to realign expectations because it's not going to be easy. You'll need to make a stretch. Like for instance, right now, what happens someone somewhat often is afternoons. I try to spend good time with my kid, and by good I mean quantity and quality. I don't think those come in separate portions. You need to spend quality time, but also a good number of hours with a kid. Um, but that means that I'm working a little bit overnight, which is somehow inconvenient. But but I mean, it's not gonna be easy. I think it's a matter of priority. And a priority not only on yourself. I think it's a family decision. Part of what's helpful for me is that every time I'm prioritizing schedule, travel, work, um, even activities here at home, making sure the house is in a good shape, is not an individual decision. It's a conversation, sometimes hard, with your partner, and
Mhm.
prioritizing times and moments for everyone on the different aspects. But I don't have a recipe to make it easy.
The next question is from Daniela Barrientos at Wizeline. What do you consider to be the main characteristic that a Wizeline engineer should have to help clients succeed in their projects?
I think it's similar to what I mentioned at the beginning. It would be a good combination on a good mix of the three things. The first one, make sure you know your thing. If you're a back end, a front end, a data engineer, make sure you know what you need to know. Then stick to the right thing, and that means understand what the problem is. Why is the client asking you to do certain thing? Why
Yeah.
is the client prioritizing what they're prioritizing? And stick to do the right thing. It doesn't mean that if you personally consider the client should not redesign their brand in a given way, but in the different direction, uh, and you still don't know why they're doing that, that seems wrong, then ask again. Make sure you gain as much knowledge as you need. It's not always about having the best technology, neither about making it the most profitable, nor about making sure the end user is 100% satisfied. It's usually a mix of different factors. So make sure you know the why, and then speak up, communicate.
Yeah, I completely agree. Understanding the problem is really important, and sometimes we overlook that part.
Yeah.
Definitely a really good advice. The other question: what projections do you have about the demand for software services related to artificial intelligence, and how do you think Wizeline Colombia is going to supply it? The question is from Luis Chaparro at Wizeline.
Okay. Hey, Luis. I personally believe we're still at an, and this is a personal take. Not I'm not speaking on behalf of Wizeline nor Wizeline Colombia, but I as part of the industry, as part of this group, I believe we're still on the experimentation phase, but we're deep in it. I think we're in a moment where we need to start having knowledge on what works and what not, what's useful and what not in the different aspects. Is when should we use Copilot, when we should not, when Chat GPT is actually an enabler, when not, when transcribing or translating capabilities will enable you to do things, when not. I think we are a moment where if we haven't experimented with anything whatsoever, we're falling behind. We need to catch up. Even at a personal level, start building your own experiments. Like me personally, a couple months back, I started building my own um, assistant.
Oh,
So
really?
every meeting I have, I pour notes there. Not every, but some documents that I feel I can share, I share them. Um, and I've been trying to have this intelligence to help me out, relieve some of the boring job that I don't want to do or that it gives me a hard time. And I think everyone should be in the same pace, not wait until someone tells you where, how, and on what to experiment, but doing based on your own intuition and needs. But we're in a moment where we need to start learning, and those that will stand out are those who are already finding answers to those questions. If I'm doing if I'm working with teras and teras of data, how to fast track my solutions, how to compile information faster, how to organize information better, um, what are the best technologies for determine types of problems. We are at the point where the industry has a lot of hunger and need for people with answers based on trial and error, based on experience, and not just based on the booklets of every new solution that is coming every week.
Now, a more personal question. What is the biggest personal challenge you have faced?
In life,
It seems, yeah, that you want to share and can
yeah,
share.
I mean, I'm an oversharer, so um, I think the biggest challenge is facing yourself in the mirror, facing your own wickedness in the mirror. I think that's my personal biggest challenge. In a very personal note, I believe as a society we're in a very good moment in history. We're probably the richest society ever, the
Agree.
healthiest society ever, uh, the most informed, the most connected, and and that's great. But I think that's moving us into a direction where our interest had shifted from purpose, meaning to happiness, satisfaction. Like you tend to hear things like, if you don't like where you are, just move out, whether it's a job or a relationship. And I'm certain there is some good to that, but I also believe there's some danger to that because it can put you in a place where you're just an observant of the world happening outside of you and not inside of you. And I believe we're we have the potential to do great good, but we also have the potential to do great or to become a threat or to be bad. we need to acknowledge that we have a tendency to also be lazy, mediocre, stay in the comfort zone, be selfish, be reckless, to rebel against the system just because, or we can also be or trick ourselves to believe that we're pushing for the good of others while at the end we're pushing for the detriment of, of other communities. So for me personally, that's a challenge to acknowledge that I can be evil, I can be bad, I can be lazy, I can be mediocre, I can be a bad parent, a lousy husband, a mediocre employee, and on a day to day, like be mindful of that and work to the best extent of my ability to go in the other direction, and knowledgeable that me myself, I'm not strong enough to do it on my own.
I agree. It's very important to be very mindful and conscious of everything. Otherwise, you go in autopilot
Yeah.
and maybe it's not the thing that you want. Another question from Ruben Felantana at Wizeline. I think this one is interesting. What would you recommend that I start doing in order to become an operations director in a software company like you? And he's currently a data engineer level 2.
Ah, I would say become obsessed with with finding the problem, and become obsessed with not putting up with what you could do better. Or I mean, as a collective, I think very, very general advice, but I think the more you start paying attention to your surroundings and learn, like, I'm having an interview. You want to say hello? So you see, not easy, but it's fun. I would say yes. Put yourself in a direction where you're observing what's happening around you, what works, what's not working as it should, and aim to do it better. Connect with people that it's in the position you wanna move to. Learn from them. Talk to them. That would also be helpful for you to confirm whether you want to be in that position or not. Like usually when you the grass looks greener from the other side. Like it's easier to be on this side and say, oh, I'm bored about building code. It's better to be on the managerial side of things, just throwing decisions here and there, optimizing processes. And then you're here, and sometimes you wake up and think, oh, it would be easier just to be on the other side of the line, just put in some code, not caring about the company doing great or not doing great. So I think that's another good point. Like talk to these people, learn what they're doing, learn about the job, learn about what's happening, confirm if that's what you want to do, and if so, the more you engage with these people, the more you'll learn, the more you're gonna be prepared to take on those roles.
And the last question from Alejandra Rodriguez. What skills do you think were key to boosting your professional careers? What particular skills?
One, I don't think it's necessarily a skill, but more decision. Work dumb hard.
Hard or smart?
Hard and
Hard.
smart, but work hard. Work a lot. I mean, get dirty. Get that presentation done. Get that feature done. Try to do it faster than what you think you could. So that's why I'm saying it's good to work smart. But if you're working smart only to relieve the burden of work, there's a lot you're missing. whenever you face that monster, whenever you get heads down, even test your own limits, you learn a lot. You learn what you're capable of. At the same time, you're learning about the thing that you're doing. So that would be one thing. I did work hard a lot, and that I'm 100% confident that boost my career. Another thing would be, which is somehow related, like aim to become a doer, like the person that gets things done. Uh, Usually, you will see there's a lot of people has who have opinions on how to do things or how things might get better. Well, get them done. Aim to be the person that gets things done. Probably not perfect, probably not great, even probably wrong, but aim to
And
get things
can that
done.
skill be learned, or is that you are born with it? What do you think?
No, I think you learn. Like both things you learn. Like just man, work, and then what's the thing that no one else is doing or you see up front, like go out, do it.
But
Um
how can you become a doer if you're not right now? What would you
I
say?
would say it start probably if you really 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 have a hard time on getting things done, start with smallest things like do your bed, do the dishes, wake up and take a shower, do your bed, and be ready for work, be on time. Those
Like
are,
like Jordan Peterson says,
yeah, like
because
Jordan
I know
Peterson
that you
says.
like him, so that
I
sounds
like him a
very
lot, and
Jordan Peterson.
I'm fairly quoting some of the things that he says, but yeah, I think start with the small things. Like I don't know, you have something at home you haven't done for a while, go out and do it. You're in a meeting, no one else taking notes, take the notes. Like put the AI to build the notes for you, then you just go out and edit. But do it. What's the that thing that in your team you see no one else is doing? Make a stretch. No one will pay you more. You probably won't be recognized for that, but you're doing something people need, or probably just yourself need. But go out and do it and exercise the muscle of getting things done. And third, I would repeat: be very be very smart to communicate.
Communication.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, this is we reached the end of this episode, and we want to thank you, Daniel, for your time. I know you're a very busy person, and your time is very valuable, so we really appreciate it. And I'm gonna watch this video many times to get all of the knowledge and the advice. And I hope that the audience also values this great episode. So
Thank you.
thank you again, Daniel.
No, thank you, Alvaro. It was a great invitation. It was a very fun conversation, and looking forward to also listening to this video and learning from myself and from others. This is a great space, by the way. It's great what you're doing. Um, don't let it pass. Keep on engaging amazing people here, and thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to the audience. And seeing you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.